Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a fascinating and really complex land use conflict in Kenya that honestly has massive implications for every single one of us. On the surface, the story of the Imenti Forest might just seem like a local dispute, but the sources we're looking at today reveal that it is actually a profound case study. As we go through the details together, we're going to look at this crisis through three distinct lenses: the wild animals physically displaced by bulldozers, the citizens actively using their constitution to fight back in court, and the alarming warning this local battle sends to global ecosystems like the Amazon and the Congo. We're going to see exactly how a proposed development has sparked a fierce, multi-layered debate about what true prosperity actually looks like.
Okay, let's jump right into this. We have this striking image from our sources of an elephant just standing, totally out of place, next to a paved highway. Now, when we see an animal like this on the road, we usually ask, why did it wander so close to the traffic? But our source text points out that's actually the completely wrong question. We really should be asking why it had to leave its home in the first place, When forests disappear, the animals don't just vanish, they are displaced. This isn't just an animal taking a casual stroll. It's an animal whose living room was literally just paved over. It's an eviction.
So, framing this as an eviction really shifts our perspective, doesn't it? Imagine this situation directly from the elephant's point of view. The text uses this powerful framing to remind us that what makes the headlines, say an elephant foraging in a maize field, is actually just the final, desperate chapter of a story that started with catastrophic habitat loss. Humans just keep moving the boundaries, drawing new lines on maps and calling it progress. Meanwhile, the original inhabitants, they're just left trying to survive in the shrinking, fragmented remnants of their world.
And hey, the elephant isn't the only one losing ground here. This exact ecosystem is the absolute last refuge for the mountain bongo. They actually call this antelope the ghost of the forest because it needs incredibly dense, specific vegetation to hide and survive. Without that exact cover, they just vanish. They are critically endangered, and our sources drop a truly catastrophic statistic here. There are fewer than 100 left in the wild, less than 100. For years, conservationists have poured immense funding and painstaking effort into saving these beautiful creatures, but their survival relies completely on this intact Mount Kenya ecosystem.
And this brings us to what the sources brilliantly call ecological schizophrenia. It's this massive contradiction playing out right now. On one hand, you have society spending millions of dollars and decades of effort trying to breed and reintroduce these critically endangered bongos, but then, on the exact same hand, another arm of society is authorizing the destruction of the precise habitat those animals absolutely require to survive, just carving it up for luxury development. It's wild. So, what is the actual development causing all this friction? Well, the proposal is to excise or carve out 100 acres of the Imenti Forest to build a state lodge, an airstrip, and a golf course. Yeah, dropping a state lodge and a golf course right into the heart of an ancient ecosystem. Critics highlighted in our sources argue this is basically a vanity project. It's designed for political convenience, giving politicians a faster commute and a place for leisure, but it comes at the direct expense of a primary water source and a critical buffer zone for a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Now, supporters of this excision argue heavily for job creation and infrastructure. But we have to remember, a forest is infrastructure. It's already this incredibly complex, highly functioning system. It silently captures water, stores huge amounts of carbon, regulates the local climate, and sustains biodiversity, all without ever generating a single invoice. One source put it perfectly: destroying a functioning forest to build human infrastructure is literally like demolishing a hospital just so you can construct a pharmacy.
To put a real number on that natural infrastructure, studies by the Trillion Trees Initiative value the Mount Kenya ecosystem services at a staggering $220 million every single year. And that $220 million isn't cash sitting in a bank vault somewhere. It's the invisible, unpaid labor of trees, filtering our rainwater, holding the soil together to prevent landslides, and regulating local temperatures year-round. Our sources argued that this immense financial reality completely dwarfs whatever minor temporary revenue a small state lodge and a golf course might generate.
And this matters immensely to all of us, because the destruction of these invisible systems leads directly to incredibly visible, painful consequences. Just listen to the scale of these numbers. The Mount Kenya ecosystem has lost a fifth of its cover in just 10 years. A fifth! Its mountain glaciers have lost 95% of their ice. The Katita River, which is a crucial water source, is drying up, and this forest provides the rain for 80% of the agriculture in the Meru region. Think about that domino effect for a second. Without forests, rivers get unstable. Without rivers, agriculture tanks. And when agriculture suffers, food prices go up, creating a deeply fragile economic environment for everyday people.
There is also a pretty glaring contradiction here that observers are quick to point out. On the global stage, the government is running this major PR campaign, promising to plant 15 billion trees to fight climate change. But at home, critics note they're using legal loopholes, like a recent amendment to the Forest Conservation and Management Act. They are basically using legislative tweaks to legally reclassify ancient, irreplaceable trees as sites for luxury utilities, allowing them to give away precious old-growth indigenous forest for development.
But here is where it gets really interesting: the law. The citizens didn't just stand by while the rules were altered, they weaponized the Constitution. When the government amended the Forest Act to expand their authority to allocate land, local citizens fought back by filing a massive petition citing their constitutional protections. And look at that June 2026 milestone. The Environment and Land Court actually stepped in as the hero of this legal chapter. They issued conservatory orders, literally stopping the bulldozers in their tracks to protect the ecological status quo while the full legal challenges are heard. It's basically a masterclass in how citizens can use the judicial system to protect the environment.
Now, our sources want us to zoom out for a minute, because the Imenti Forest is not just an isolated anomaly. It's a symptom. This local legal and environmental battle is actually a micro version of a huge global crisis. The exact same constitutional questions being debated right now in Kenyan courts are echoing all over the world. Can a nation chase economic prosperity without destroying the very natural systems that make prosperity possible? That is a question that directly impacts the global climate, our international supply chains, and, well, the air we all breathe.
You can actually draw a direct line from Kenya straight to the Amazon and the Congo Basin. In Brazil, clearing land for cattle and infrastructure is pushing the Amazon toward a terrifying tipping point, a point of no return, where lush rainforest could permanently degrade into dry savanna. And over in the Congo Basin, the second largest tropical forest on Earth, there is relentless pressure to exploit timber, minerals, and industrial agriculture. Everywhere from Kenya to Brazil to the Congo, the shared justification is always the same: economic development. But repeatedly exploiting natural capital for quick gains, that risks destroying the essential ecosystem services that future generations absolutely need to survive.
Ultimately, the source texts argue that this isn't just an environmental crisis. It's a fundamental crisis of leadership. It really pits short-term leadership against long-term leadership. Short-term leaders, they only see as far as the next election cycle. They look at a forest and just see a political favor or, a potential golf course. But long-term leaders think in generations. They look at that exact same forest and see a vital watershed, a sanctuary for endangered species, and an absolutely non-negotiable pillar of lasting ecological stability.
I want to leave you with a really profound question straight from our texts. Are forests merely resources, or are they relationships? Because think about it. If we and our leaders view nature only as a resource waiting to be consumed and paved over, then its absolute destruction is basically inevitable. But if we view it as a complex, living relationship that we are actively a part of, then intelligent, lasting stewardship actually becomes possible. It really forces us to ask, what kind of ancestors do we want to be? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.